Okay, guys, reflection time. So I just had a very interesting interaction with these three young ladies who go to the Paul Mitchell School near Colorado Springs. I remember their names, but we'll call one T. She had colored hair. There was a silent one in the back. We'll just call her the silent one. And then there was one who's really friendly. We'll call her Hawaii, right? So I come up to them, start talking to Hawaii. Well, I start talking to all three of them and ask them how it's like going to Paul Mitchell. Hawaii tells me nothing. T is like, oh yeah, like it's fine or whatever. And you know, these girls were young, so they were like college age, right? Early college, high school. They've definitely been like maybe 1 or 2 years removed from high school. So I kind of go in there, I'm just kind of talking to them, kind of doing it. And I was going actually to go visit a dispensary in Colorado, and I find out that I need a medical card. So T mentions it, and I was like, hey, if I paid you to help me, and I don't know if like this is culpable. I didn't do it, right? So I don't know if the statute of limitations is on this, if I'm admitting to a crime, but I didn't commit a crime. Anyway, I don't know. So she basically is like, oh yeah, like you can't do that, or like I'm not interested, like you're a stranger in a van. And remember, I'm walking at this time from the hotel, so I'm like, I don't have a van here, like what are you talking about? And I'm trying to softly tell them, like,
East Colorado Avenue.
I'm trying to softly sort of like tell them, like, hey, like what you said is actually pretty rude, like when someone comes and speaks to you. And they had a homeless person come talk to them and yell at them, and it was fine, but they said it ended on a positive note and it was fine. And so this is where I screwed up, right? Because T drops a really big revelation about herself, something that I don't know if it's like just that she had gone through assault when she was really young. And so I hear that, and my mind starts racing, because I know that when someone shares something like that, like that's very vulnerable, and that's either it's a test, right? It's a very like egregious test, right? And I know that, and so I'm like, I need to start stepping very carefully. Because remember, at this conference, I'm talking to like people who are just in a completely different place than this girl. So my mind is still kind of like wiring very high, and I'm not really giving her as much presence as she needs at this moment, especially because there's the two other girls right there. So now she starts taking this attention, and I realize like it's a bid for trust. And I fucked up, guys. I really fucked up, because you know, she tells me that, I ask her some questions, and it's fine, but then she's like, I'm a strong, independent woman. And I had just gone through learning about the heroine's journey, and that was just still going on in my mind. And in that archetype, and we'll talk about this actually, how the hero's journey and the heroine's journey kind of link up, right? So one of the things you learn is that like the divine feminine is more powerful, right? And the divine masculine matures faster. But the issue with the divine masculine is that it stops in its isolation, and in order to progress, it needs the divine feminine. While the divine feminine, you know, grows and needs the masculine, but the divine feminine understands that. So the heroine's journey, which is like really devalued in America because we're really big in like strong and independence, and like it's the symptom of a toxic masculine culture, right? That's all about isolation and pushing people away. And like I feel bad for these girls, because they were just they were products of that environment. Like they're just products of this thinking. They don't really understand, right? So I'm thinking at 1,000,000 miles per hour and not thinking. I was like, oh, so you're still on that bullshit. No worries, you'll figure it out. Now you guys gotta understand, when I said that, T just got invalidated. I just totally invalidated. And remember, they had just opened up to me something very personal about themselves. A stranger on the street. Now granted, it was sort of a setup to fail, and that's not super healthy behavior, so I'm not gonna like blame and beat myself up. But recognizing what it was, I needed to just shut up and just recognize like, oh, like typically guys, if you meet with someone who's like that and they say that, if they're doing it in like an intimate conversation, that's like a test for a bid for intimacy, and that's where you can really lean in and do that. When it's out in the open like that, that's, without knowing it, T was setting herself up to be hurt, right? And the thing is, she was setting herself up to be hurt because, I'm cool, I'm charming, but obviously there's some trust issues there, and she's looking for a way to validate that lack of trust she feels. So she's setting me up to fail. And that's a situation where, without people knowing, without people knowing it, and I don't even know if she was conscious of it. It was like, you've set me up to fail because now you've opened up this really, really raw part of yourself. And, we've met for about a couple minutes, and because I don't know you as well, I don't know what your triggers are and everything. So you've created a situation where you're going to get triggered and upset, but that's not because I have ill will or want to hurt you. It's because I don't know who you are. And I could have all the goodwill in the world, but I still am a human being. And so that was just bad communication, and honestly, I really should have probably dipped after it and just said, well, hey, you know what? If you want, message me back with a medical card. But I was trying to dive into it a little bit, and then I ended up saying what I said, which was super stupid, super invalidating, and hurt her. And then she walked off, and then her friends followed, right? And I'm sure they heard that, and they were talking shit, whatever. That's what they girls do. But the reality is, it's guys, so a couple things. First off, if you're going to share something intimate, well, a couple things. I first off was really invalidating, but that's obviously, when someone talks about assault when they were young, that's a very difficult thing to validate, especially when you're coming from not a hurt place, right? So that's just very difficult. And I mean, T understands that, but I don't, in her mind, I'm pretty sure she's fuck this guy, he sucks, right? But it's even you said it, very few people could understand that, so you kind of set me up to fail, right? I could have loved you perfectly, but if I don't love you perfectly in the way that you don't even know how to get it, you were just going to feel bad. So that was kind of a tough situation. And on the flip side, it's understanding that when someone's in a spot like that and they share something, even if you have thoughts of understanding that the higher energy is based in cooperation, compassion, and interdependence, not independence. So that's what was going through my mind, was that independence, I understand independence is just halfway through the journey. I understand that interdependence and working with other people and building community is the higher calling. I understand that. She might not necessarily understand that, though. So when I say, oh, you're still on that bullshit, I basically invalidated the girl, right? And then anything that I'd built up with it crumbled down. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily because I'm a bad person, and I'm not saying T is the easiest person to get along with. I can't imagine she's super easy to get along with and super chill. Because, I was nothing but kind of friendly to them, and they, accused me of being a stranger, But the thing is, that mistrust is not because they're bad people. That's just what we've done to our culture. So it's understanding that this is why we have to learn to build bridges. And it was interesting because once I talked about my YouTube channel, that kind of validated their mind. And it's sad because I'm realizing until I have an internet presence, there's just going to be a certain people who are just going to be harder to reach because they look for validation through a phone screen rather than being present with their own experiences, right? Which is tough, right? Where it's you trust your phone and what your phone's saying more than your own senses and your own sense of character. But I mean, when it's not developed, it happens. So I can understand that. So that was kind of a mistake, but something I learned, and kind of just my ideas on the hero's journey and invalidating somebody. So T, if you see this, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to invalidate you. I hope you can forgive me. But yeah, Hawaii, you were nice. I really appreciated how friendly you are. And the silent one, even though you didn't say very much, you're very cute and you're a good listener, so thank you for that. I had a pleasant experiences with all three of you girls again. If I see you again, hopefully that'll be nice. If not, I hope you can walk away with this experience full circle, knowing that there are good people out in the world, even if there's some painful experiences that come from that. So I hope you guys had fun. Guys, stay happy, stay healthy, and see you on the flip side. Don't invalidate people. Peace.